Hmm. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the most entertaining podcast. My name is Barry. I'm your host for this episode. And today we'll be having another one of our regulars, Iyanu. Hey, bro. How you doing?
Very fine, very fine. Glad to be on the show again.
Very well, very well. I think it's the first time both of us are on the platform together. So it's good to be doing
Yes.
this with you. But first of all, a big shout out to all our listeners. Thank you for the support so far. Continue to like, share, subscribe, comment. Let us know how you feel again once. And yeah, on today's episode, we'll be discussing a position that we feel the top six should be finishing in at the end of the season. But before we get into today's episode, just a quick reminder about the TME match of the week. Um, Last week, it was the game between Brighton and Manchester United, which ended 4-2. But this week, we're going to the Championship, the second division of English football, where we saw a 3-2 thriller between Hull City and Birmingham. And yeah, it had everything from fantastic goals. By the way, I think Shemi Ajayi got a goal in that game as well. Shout out to him, Super Eagles centre back. He got a goal there, and Bright Osai Sama was on the bench for Birmingham. But he had everything from a brawl and a sending off related, and yeah, it was really really crazy. So everyone should check out that game. The link is below this. So if you want to watch that game, please feel free. Just click the link below and you will find it. All right, then let's get started. But before we get into it, let me just tell you guys about the format in which we'll be discussing how we expect the top six to finish, or rather, a position each of the top six needs to strengthen in January. Pardon me. And yeah, so we'll start in alphabetical order. So obviously, when we're talking about the big six here on the TME pod, we're speaking about Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Man United, Man City, and then Spurs, right? So a position each of the top six needs to strengthen in January. All right, so Ian, let's get this kicking. So Arsenal, first of all, in what position do you think this Arsenal team needs to strengthen in January? And that's even if you feel they need to strengthen in any position in January.
Yes. All right. So concerning Arsenal, because when I think about the position they are in now, you just think of how can you really improve a near perfect team or a team that's really near perfection. So as it is now, they already have an 11 that can rival the best in Europe, and they have backup for for every position. But if
Mm,
there would be any need to add to the team, it might just have to be in midfield, particularly Declan Rice role, who is the engine of the whole team, basically. And whoever comes in or whoever they need to sign in that position will be someone that will be willing to play back or play second fiddle to Rice because he's the one that will play majority of the games, basically. So concerning who can play there, one could think that Skelly, with Skelly, who is already in the team, could possibly play that midfield role because he's normally a midfielder by trade. But he currently, I doubt he has that defensive mindset or he has the defensive traits the same as Rice does. And also Merino, who normally is a midfielder, but he doesn't. I think the pace of the EPO might be too fast for him compared to the way he played in with Sociedad, and also in Spain, his midfield role kind of differs. He plays more like a, I don't know whether to call it a box crashing midfielder that normally makes late runs into the box to get goals and all that. And when he does play for Arsenal, normally he plays up front like a false nine, but you see him dropping
mm,
back. So I guess that false nine midfield role kind of suits him. But
mhm.
concerning where Arsenal will need to add, it will need to be midfield, particularly Rice, because I don't think they have a backup for him, a backup in that role, a regular backup in that role.
Mm. Yeah, I think I understand where you're coming from for sure, considering the fact that currently at Arsenal, it looks like there is no other player that can deputize in the absence of Declan Rice. And I think obviously that might be a problem for them, especially if he gets injured. And yeah, honestly, I think you made a good case for Miles Lewis Kelly because throughout the academy, that was basically like his position. But top flight football is different gravy in comparison to what you'll be playing when you're, I mean, playing for the under 21s. And he seems not also to be the best defensively. Obviously, I think the most recent example had to be the game against Bayern. He was obviously getting cooked by Michael Olise, and Ricardo Calafiori had to come in to save the day for Arsenal on that flank. So um, that could be a possible addition that they do want to make. But in the balance of things, when you're taking a look at the Arsenal squad, like you mentioned as well, Mikel Merino is there, but we know that Merino does not offer as much to Arsenal when he's playing in midfield in comparison to when he's playing as the number nine. So I think that's a good dilemma for Ateta to have, and that might probably give him options. But to be honest, I think from a personal point of view, I find it difficult to see them making um, a signing in January for midfield. But for me, one position where I think maybe so first of all, I think before I give my own opinion, let me just say that I don't think Arsenal need to sign any player in January, and this is majorly because there's a good balance in the team. So when I say there's a good balance in the team, I'm talking about the current players that are available for Arsenal, the first team players. Every player has had minutes this season, meaning that they feel valued. So I don't see how anyone might be pushing to move in January. So if there are no exits, I don't expect any incomings. But if there's any position where I feel might be weak a bit and might need strengthening, I think is the right back position. I don't know what it is, but I feel like Ben White has not been back to his best physically. I'm not really sure if he needs a good run of games, but he's looking a bit stiff to me. um, Although preseason before the season started, he looked okay, but then he had another setback again, and he's not really, for me, in the few games he has played, he's not really looking his optimum best. And I do think that Jurgen Timber would obviously need a bit of competition and someone that can actually give him rest as well. Because I think Timber obviously has to be one of the most used players in the Arsenal team, especially from last season. So for me, I think it would be nice to have another right back. Although some Arsenal fans listening to this will say to me that, oh, Mosquera can play there. Yeah, he can play there, but it's not his natural position. He's actually a centre back as well. But hey, those are the positions. For me, right back is that position where I feel Arsenal might need to strengthen, even though I still think they are good right now with the squad they have. But hey, we'll see what happens when January comes. So, and
Yeah.
then to
So
Chelsea now.
concerning the
Oh, Yanni, you want to say something before I
producers
go on?
notes,
Yeah.
yeah, the producers notes. He said the Arsenal might also need a backup goalie because Kepa is not really
Mm,
as reliable as you want your goalie to be. But
mm,
I also consider that, but considering someone who has won, I think he won Champions League with Chelsea. Oh, I know Mendy
correct.
was the main guy, but I'm not sure if he won it with Chelsea. And
Mm,
if he was good enough to
yeah.
be backup for Real Madrid for a period, to be able to do the
Mm,
same as Arsenal,
mm-hmm,
someone to come in,
mm,
give Raya a rest. So
yeah.
I mean, goalie yes, but probably not as essential as other positions. I would say.
Yeah. True. True. I do agree because I think going into January as well, Arsenal need to consider being safe in terms of like financial fair play and PSR rules, also considering how much they spent during the summer. I know the transfer for Hincapi is going to fall into the next tax window, but obviously the signings of Gyökeres, Mosquera, although he was bought on a ridiculously cheap price, but yeah, for the other players as well, Zubimendi as well, they will need to balance the books. I think that's another aspect that teams will consider going into January. Well, yeah, and just to answer our producer's comment regarding if we can trust Kepa, I think for the games that Kepa has deputized in this season, maybe just one or two, I think he's been decent. I don't think he has given us a reason to be scared. I think he's probably like he's a good backup for Raya, and I think rather Kepa is good enough to start for any team. I think he's decent on the ball. I think his shot stopping is good as well. Yeah, I just think he had a bad run of form in Chelsea. Hence, Edward Mendy stepping in to be the number one. And since then, he probably really hasn't had the chance to, play consistently at a high level. He had a good spell at Real Madrid, when the likes of Andre Yunin and Courtois were out injured. But once those two came back in, obviously he was relegated to the bench. But so far, so good for Kepa. hopefully he continues to play well in the Carabao Cup and then the FA Cup in January. All right, then. So moving on to the London neighbours, Chelsea, a team that Arsenal will be facing, or rather, a team that Arsenal would have faced by the time you watch this pod. Yeah, Iyanu, in what position do you think Chelsea needs to strengthen?
Yeah, so before going into the positions where they may need to add in, I want to first give Enzo Maresca his props. He showed that last season was not just a one-off; that he really knows what he's doing. He can get the players to play his type of football, and he can get,
Mm,
let's say, everyone that make sure they can do what they need to do to win games. And considering that three of their top scorers from last season, that's Palmer, Jackson, Nico Jackson, and Madueke. Two of them have gone out. Have gone out of the club. One of them hasn't played. They played at all this season, but somehow, some way, they have still found themselves to be in, let's say, in the race for a title. Part of the girls who are in the race for the league title, also doing quite okay in the Champions Leagues. Won 3 out of the 5 games. And if all goes well, they will be part of the team that get the automatic playoff places. So concerning where they will need to strengthen, I would say their midfield, most likely their midfield, particularly the Caicedo and Enzo roles, the double pivot, so to speak, because those guys are really the engine room of the whole Chelsea team. They make their games look so much. I mean, they just hold the team together basically. And I see that Maresca has tried his best to really manage the players, manage their game time because Caicedo has played 10 out of 12 games. I think the break in between was due to the international break, something like that. And also Enzo Fernandez is played 11 out of 12. So if they need to add to anywhere in the team, it would be in midfield. And also, I don't know if I can pick two roles. Can I pick two roles or just
mm. Ideally, you should pick one position. I think you can
one?
weigh the
So
options and then go for the stronger position you think would be of more value to them to actually strengthen.
yes, I wanted to also say defense because really, I don't think you can really trust their defense to really be consistent on the stretch of the whole season because defensive playing, you're not sure whether it's going to be Chalaba and Tosin or Chalaba and Fofana. I know Kobe is out for the time being. I think it's an ACL injury, but I think the defense can probably patch their defense to an extent, but the priorities should be the midfield just to give Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez a break when they need it. So defense okay, but midfield should probably be a priority. That's my
Mm,
pick.
yeah. Mm. I mean, solid shout right there. I think you picked the two most important positions in where Chelsea needs to strengthen. Because personally, for me, I questioned some of their signings last season, or rather this summer in particular. I think the signing of João Pedro was good, but I do think Chelsea should have gone for a more experienced striker rather than someone like Liam Delap. It didn't make any sense to me, in my own opinion. I do understand that, yeah, they've got a young core, and it seems like the management has a particular, should I say, um, I think they just have a particular value now going forward in terms of the type of players that they want to sign. But if you want this Chelsea team to be competitive and win trophies, you need a good blend of youth and experience. And I don't think Chelsea really signed any experienced players this summer. I think they signed more of young players. I think João Pedro has to be the most experienced because João Pedro has spent a good number of years in the Premier League and also in England generally, playing in the championship as well for Watford. So he's got good experience for me. But at the end of the day, Joao Pedro, I think we've all seen that he's not your out and out clinical striker. That's why he has had a downtime in terms of form, and the goals have dried up. And Liam Delap obviously has a lot of growing up to do, for various reasons. But you already mentioned midfield, which is key for them. I think you're right because Enzo and Caicedo have had to play almost every game because they are substitutes. and I think number one have not been available. I think the direct substitutes for them, number one, had to be Dario Sugo and then Romeo Lavia. Lavia, obviously, we know he's injury ridden, but Dario Sugo, for his first season as well in England, sadly, he had an injury that kept him out for a long time. But I think he's back. I saw pictures of him in training. So I don't know how soon he'll be led into the team setup, to be able to play because Andre Santos, I think, not that I think, Enzo Maresca has said this a number of times that since Andre Santos more as a number 10 and less of a 6 or an 8. He wants Andre Santos bombing up the field more of like a box crusher. But Andre Santos obviously can play as a 6 or an 8. He did that. He has done that very well in the past for the Brazilian on the 20 side, even now the national team, and and Strasbourg as well when he had a very good season with them. So for me, I think Andre Santos probably needs to play more games for Chelsea going forward, and we might just see Darius go back in the mix. So they might not be pressed to spend in midfield, considering that Rhys James also is another option. So for me, since you mentioned midfield, I think I'll go for the defense, and I think most importantly, in terms of centre back pairings. I think Tosin Adarabioyo has caused Chelsea to concede 6 goals this season alone. Fofana obviously struggles against um, physical forwards, so sometimes he could be a liability. And I think I would agree with Chelsea fans when I say that their best defender has been out all season. That's Levi Colwill. Uh, However, their most consistent defender has been Trevor Chalobah, even though sometimes he's also error prone. I just think Chelsea probably need to get one more good centre back in, someone who eventually would become a partner for Levi Colwill. But obviously, they need to offload. They've got Disasi still on their books, so they're yet to sell. Obviously, I'm sure he should be leaving to another club in January, considering the fact that the World Cup is around the corner. He would want to make the French national team, even though I don't think that would be realistic. But hey, I do think that a centre back is needed for Chelsea. So for me, I said a centre back, and then Iyanu went for a centre midfielder. So moving on now
Yeah, so
to
also
yeah.
the producer's notes, he said they will need but someone like a Thiago Silva regent, basically.
Mm,
So yes, that is just that leadership figure at the back, Van Dijk for Van Dijk for Liverpool or Gabriel for Arsenal. Just someone to really organize the defense. So
mm,
yes, also on the producer, they need
mm,
leadership figure at the back, just someone to, and they had that someone in Gehi, but I think they looked at profits. They wanted to get more profits for the player, but anyway,
mhm.
they will see what happens in coming
Yeah,
windows.
yeah. Solid comment there from our producer. And actually, the fact that you mentioned Margehi now, that could be another option for Chelsea. Because I don't know about Margehi, but I don't think it's a good idea to go to Liverpool because it's a World Cup year. He would want to play football consistently. I think at the end of the day, and slot would always still stick to Konate and Van Dijk if they are both fit. Although he might decide to drop Konate because I mean Konate's future is up in the air. No one knows if he wants to sign a contract extension or he's waiting to go on a free to Real Madrid. But Margehi is someone obviously who I think Palace would want to sell in January. I think it would be ridiculous for them to let him leave on a free, for next summer. So yeah, Margehi might just be making a return to Cobham. We'll find out eventually. But yeah, speaking about Liverpool, that's the next thing for us to analyze right now. So Yanu, in what position do you think Liverpool need to strengthen come January?
Yeah, so the Liverpool situation is it's really a strange one because it's not the first time that we've seen a team that is fresh off from winning silverware, winning a title, not be able to perform well the next season. As we've seen it with Chelsea, we've seen it with City. So it's just this, and like I said, this winners course. This been happening for a while, and they really this try to strengthen this summer window, but for some reason, none of the signings have really worked out. Like none of them, and it leaves you wondering why. The only person that tried to make an impact or made an early impact was Ekitike. I hope I got the spelling right. But he's starting to fizzle out a bit. I think the maybe the manager is trying to give Isak more game time, but I think it's not really working out for some reason. And also with another Bundesliga player that the Premier League is too fast for him, too physical for him. Frimpong has been out for a while. So it's just, I'm not even, and the striker, I mentioned Isaac earlier, for some reason, he's only scored once this season for Liverpool, and that was in the Carabao Cup game, EFL. He had to score in the Premier League, he had to score in the Champions League. So, but again, back to the question where they will need to improve. If I would first thought would be their defense because
Mm,
they have an aging back line, really. Allison entering his mid 30s, who is still reliable, but injuries are really been piling up. Also, Van Dijk, who is also in his mid 30s, so they will need to really strengthen up that back line, I would say. Also, they did sign Kekes previously, but I think he's still trying to find form or find really gel with the team, so to speak. But
mm,
if they will need to improve anywhere in the team, I'll say the midfield is still good to go, at least for a few more years. The attack, they freshen that up so they can probably maneuver that. But if they will need to improve anywhere else soon, it will need to be their defense because of age. The age that the key areas are, the age that the players are getting to, basically. That's my pick.
mm, Yeah, I think I would have to agree with you right there. In defense is where I think Liverpool need to bolster up. And it's funny you said that the only goal that Isak has scored for Liverpool has been in the Carabao Cup. He actually just scored for West Ham a couple of minutes before we started recording. So yeah, I think by the time anyone is listening to this pod, I think Alexander Isak would have secured Liverpool 3 points for the first time in what, like 4 games. So yeah, he's starting to get back into good fitness. I think match rhythm and match fitness was something he was lacking, considering the fact that he didn't have a preseason with them. And I do agree with you when you did say that it seems like Ekitike has lost form, and I think that's because of and Slot, because Slot has been trying his best to get Isak into that first team and to get him to hit the ground running. I honestly do not agree with that method from Slot because I think it has affected them and has cost them points. I do think that when you have a player who has not had proper preseason, I think the best thing is to ease him into the team and not get him to the forefront immediately because there will be repercussions for that in terms of injury. And Isak has had two recurring injuries since he has joined Liverpool. Obviously, I think I know this firsthand, considering the fact that I'm an Arsenal fan, and I saw the way Ricardo Calafiori suffered last season. The injuries were just so frequent, and it hurt a lot because he's such a talented player who gives a lot when he plays. But then I think there's such a difference with Calafiori this season. Got some time to rest, was healthy, took part in preseason, and he has been available for Arsenal for every game this season. So, but anyway, the deed has been done, and Liverpool, I think, have good strikers. Some might argue that they've not really replaced Luis Diaz, who obviously left to Bayern Munich. Mo Salah will be going for AFCON. So, but in my opinion, I think Liverpool still have good players in Federico Chiesa and Jeremy Frimpong. I think Frimpong might play more up front than in defense because for me personally, I don't see the difference between Jeremy Frimpong and Trent Alexander-Arnold when it comes to defensive duties. Both players give you a lot going forward, but defensively they're not the best. And then Conor Bradley also struggling with injury, and he seems only to turn up against the ginormous players. He seems to be a Kingslayer, but against regular opposition, Conor Bradley struggles. So personally, you said centre back. I think I'll go for a right back. I genuinely do think that Liverpool need a right back. No disrespect to Joe Gomez, but I think Joe Gomez has been one of those players that has been lucky to be at Liverpool for so long. I don't think his quality is up there as it used to be in time past. And obviously, injuries are not his friend, and he's not the type of player to rely on. So for me, I think right back. I agree with you when you say in defense. That's where Liverpool need to bolster up, the most. Our producer was saying that they've not really got um, a good deputy for Gravenberch, but Anslot, if he's listening to this, will probably comment and say, "Oh, he's got Endo," because he's so quick to defend certain positions when it comes to when reporters always ask him what positions do you need to bolster up, and when everyone gives their own opinions, he says, "Look, I've got a good number of players." Even in the centre back position, Anslot has said that look, he's got Gravenberch who can play there. And in my head, I'm thinking, why would you want to sacrifice arguably your best midfielder from your title winning season into the centre back position? But hey, he's the manager, and I think he's got the backing of the hierarchy. So he would continue to choose whoever he deems fit to play. But yeah, I think those are worthy positions that Liverpool need to strengthen in. But at the end of the day, January is not far away. We'll see what type of business that they will try to do in in the winter transfer window. So from Liverpool
Yeah,
now.
so
Mhm.
considering spending in January, considering or rather looking at how the summer transfer window went for Liverpool, none of the signings working out. Can they really afford to gamble? That's another thing to look at, seeing as none of the signings have worked out in January, so in summer, August. So will
Mm.
they take that risk again in the winter? We'll see.
Yeah.
Let's see how it progresses.
Another thing that just came to mind now that you mentioned that is the price tags for those players that they signed. Are Liverpool going to be in a safe position to spend more money to sign players in January? I think they would be though, because they were still looking to sign Maguire even on transfer deadline day. So they probably got like maybe a 60 to 80 million that they could still spend. Obviously, with some of these deals these days, they are spread across maybe years. I think everyone has taken a cue from Todd Bowley and Chelsea in the way they do business. So maybe, that 250 million pound for Alexander Isak, maybe it wasn't paid up front. Maybe the entirety of the transfer sum of Ekitike and Frimpong as well was not paid up front immediately. Because I know obviously these teams will want to be safe financially. So we'll see eventually. We'll see how many players Liverpool will get to sign in January. So now moving over to Liverpool's arch rivals, talking about Manchester United, a team under Ruben Amorim. For those who don't know, um, yeah, yeah. And in what position do you think Manchester United need to strengthen in January?
Yeah, so United right now, a very interesting team for the past few years. So at the state they are now, I would say where they really need to improve on or really sign players in is in defense, because currently they've already considered 20 goals, which is already too much for a team that would want to not challenge for the title, but at least finish in a decent European spot. And I would say the defense right now is probably doing a decent job, because the regular starters are, I think, Elite, Euro, and Shaw, if I'm not mistaken. So
Mm,
either they really need more time to gel together, or they need to get, because again, getting new players to really, it's defense, just basically just defense, because the current guys are doing okay, but really you need people that are more solid, basically. But I would say, weighing the options again, because I would say Ironman Bruno, who they can always rely on to
mm,
play regularly. The day will come where he would. I think he got suspended. I can't remember whether it was this season or last season. Okay, Bruno and also Ugarte, Ugarte and Casemiro, because both of them, Casemigos or that Casemiro, getting quite leggy, doesn't really have the legs to play 90 consistently, and Ugarte
mm,
isn't really that calmness that they need in midfield. But
mm,
I would still, I would go for defense, because they really are conceding too much. And the new goalie they signed, I think Lemens, he has proven to be an improvement on Onana, and also the last the guy who was playing before him. His name is escaping my mind. By
Buying
Indir,
there.
something
Yeah.
something like
Correct.
that.
Yeah.
By Indir.
Yeah.
So Lemens and improvements on comparing where they were last season. So they really need to improve that defense if they want to really go further, if they want to really improve. They said defenses win titles, but they are not in a state where they can win titles right now. So just improve the defense, and you can build from there. Because midfield attack, they can probably still work itself out, but defense, that's my priority place to improve Man United.
Mm, mm. Um, yeah, I do agree with you when it comes to defense. For me, I think in defense, they should probably invest in a good CCB, considering the fact that, they play with a three at the back. I think someone who can play centrally, who is vocal enough to coordinate the team, and someone who's got good legs and someone who can communicate. Maguire is another good option for United, because obviously we know Maguire is getting older. The legs are not really there as much. Delete is absolutely inconsistent. He's not really the type of player to rely on, but when he's in good form, you would appreciate him. But I do think he would be better playing as an RCB, or in fact, being on the bench would be good, because Lenny Euro is a good option for the RCB as well. So for me, I just think if they were to strengthen defensively, a CCB is that one for me. And then I think our producer speak is LWB, by the way, for United. Having Dalo play in that position is not really the best. He's not the best wing back. That's just the truth. And then with players like Mazurai going for AFCON, obviously they'll be lacking players in that position. But then, AFCON is not going to be forever, it's just for a month. I'm sure they'll be second guessing in terms of strengthening that position. There's a Diego Leon who they signed last season, who has been playing with the under 21 squad. Um, Martinez is back, by the way. He's back from injury. Tyrell Malacia is also back from injury. He's been on the bench consistently for a good number of games. So I mean, they've got options. But another thing is, do they want to use someone like Malacia? Malacia was initially not even an option for Ruben Amorim, so he might not stay. But for me, I'm going for midfield. I think that's one position where United need to strengthen. I think they know that as well. That's why they were going all out for Baleba, Carlos Baleba, the Cameroonian who plays for Brighton. And yeah, definitely for Ruben Amorim's system, he needs a very energetic box to box midfielder, someone who can do a lot of good work, um, going up and down, probably having the ability to as well dictate play a bit and just have quality. Someone that can complement Bruno Fernandez, someone that could make it almost easy for Bruno to bump forward, and it will be okay for him to do that, knowing that who's got at the back is solid. For me, I would go for midfield. I think United definitely need to strengthen in midfield. Ugarte for me is not a good deputy. I think Ugarte probably should be looking for another club. I do agree that Kobe Meno needs more games, but at the end of the day, it's down to the manager. But yeah, for me, midfield, that's the position for United in which I think they need to strengthen. Yeah, Iyanu, yeah. Before we move on,
No, no notes. On to the next. On to the
all
next.
right, alrighty. So moving over to the noisy neighbors of United, talking about Manchester City. Um, yeah, they've been struggling. Let's just call it spade a spade. Since last season, this season as well, they've struggled to be consistent. So, in what position do you think Manchester City needs to strengthen?
Yeah, so the Man City. I think what they are really missing are the guys that used to really push the team, that you really carry the team on their back, so to speak. So in the sense of, rather in the persons of Rodri, who really organizes defense, make sure everyone is doing their job, and also De Bruyne, who both players who just make things happen for the team, really. And the guys they have gotten to, like say, cover up, or is it to cover up both positions. Nico Gonzalez is not really working out as a deputy for Rodri. Maybe the Premier League isn't also the right fit for him, or still trying to gel well with the team. And Reinders, who I would say is doing pretty okay, but compared to the I say the skill set of De Bruyne is not both. Reinders is good. Don't get me wrong, absolutely a good midfielder. But concerning, or rather, compared to what City who are used to, compared to what City are used to, De Bruyne who was always making things happen, finding spaces,
Mm,
finding passes, feeding Haaland and all that. So if they really need to improve on any position, it will be in midfield. Really, the DM position. That is, unless some miracle can happen to Rodri, where he can get back to his best, and also someone who can have the same impact that De Bruyne had for Man City. I was also tempted to say right back because Walker, also one of the people who carried the team on his back, make sure the defense was doing their job, carry the ball from defense to attack, basically.
mm,
But really, the midfield would be the priority for me, particularly the position that Rodri occupies and the CAM on number 10 that De Bruyne used to play. De Bruyne played. So that's my pick for performance.
mm, yeah, I do agree with you. Those are two key positions, talking about the midfield in where you probably feel Man City is lacking. I mean, some people will say, oh, they've got Ryan Cherky. But yeah, I think Ryan Cherky is more of a finisher, honestly. He's not necessarily the one to want to drop deep to dictate play, to dictate the tempo. Yes, he can create chances, but Ranchek is obviously more effective in the final third in comparison to what Iyanu is speaking about, like a De Bruyne who can carry the ball from the defense to attack, just driving on his own. So definitely, Man City lack a player in that profile. Tinjani Riders can do a job there, but obviously, you would want to get the best out of Reinders as a box to box. That's just the truth. And obviously, Reinders is needed to also stay closer to Nico Gonzalez, who obviously has shown that he's not the best deputy for Rodri. But that's Iyanu's pick midfield. For me, I think I'll go for a second striker. I think Manchester City need to get a second striker because when Erling Haaland is not playing, the goals are not coming in. And so what happens at the stage of the season where Haaland loses form? What happens when Haaland gets suspended? What happens when Haaland is injured? I think in thinking retrospectively now, it seems to be that even though that was the biggest sale in their history, talking about Julian Alvarez leaving Manchester City to Atletico Madrid, I think in terms of team success, I think that was a bad move from Manchester City. But I don't blame them. Julian Alvarez wanted to play more games. He does deserve to play more games. He's a quality striker. We can see that with Atletico Madrid and obviously with the Argentina national team. But I do think that Manchester City need to find a good player, a good striker who can always deputize in the absence of Erling Haaland and someone who can actually push Haaland, give him a bit of competition as well because we see the competition brings out the best in players these days. So yeah, that's my that's my pick for Manchester City. I do think a striker is who is needed for them.
Yeah, because concerning the point you made earlier, someone who can push Haaland, can you really say there are? I mean, well, I would say yes, there are strikers that could compete with Haaland right now in Europe. Persons of who can I even say this? A very short list. Maybe
Mm.
Mbappe, and also okay, Mbappe, Lewandowski, Kane. Those are the people that can compete with Haaland as far as goal scoring. But someone
Mm.
that could come in and be comfortable being a backup. I know there are probably players that can do that, but I think they signed someone in January, Mamouche, who they thought could play. I'm not sure whether they signed him to play as a striker or a winger to back up Doku, but backup striker does make sense because I think the last game they played, Champions League, that I can't remember who played as a striker. They couldn't really get past that defense. So striker absolutely does. A backup striker does make sense. But someone that could come
Mm.
in to play backup for Haaland, that will be playing the bench most of the season. They're coming to make, let's say, a super sub striker, just a super sub striker. That's what they need, or
Mm.
the point they are trying to make. So yeah, it does make sense.
Yeah, I do
Whoever is
agree
going to
with
come in
you.
and do that.
Yeah, I do agree with you because Obama is definitely not an out and out striker. I think when it comes to him playing as a forward, he's good as a left winger or a second striker. He got the most goals when he played the most games with Hugo Ekitike at Frankfurt. So, someone he needs someone else to be a distraction while he's picking up the second balls and doing the damage. Almost in certain scenarios whereby the defense forgets he's there or they don't just pay as much as pay as much attention to him because there's another towering figure that they need to work on or mark. So yeah, we're definitely in agreement regarding that. Our producer says he would love to see Dybala at Manchester City. I mean, anything is possible. Anything is possible. I think Dybala going to Manchester City will also be a good fit for him in terms of getting ready for the World Cup. I'm sure he wants to put himself in a good position to be selected by Scaloni because the Argentina national team is currently embarrassed with a lot of talent, especially attacking talent. And I'm sure it's going to be only the players who are in good form, who are playing games regularly, that would eventually make the team to complement Lionel Messi going into the World Cup. But yeah, that's it regarding Manchester City. Okay, Iyanu?
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Just the I wanted to say something, but I don't think there's any need for it. You said compliment Messi, so are we sure that Messi is going in 2026? Is there needs? Because does it really because there's this rumor I heard, I don't know how true, that he
Yeah.
said he might not, he said he might not. I guess he's just
Mm.
leaving the whole world guessing whether he's going, whether he's not going. So really, I guess he will want to go as far one last dance with the national team. But I guess we'll
Yeah.
see. At least World Cup isn't that far away. So if he does go, one last dance
Um.
national team. What do we want to see?
Yeah, definitely. And our producer says, look, Messi is going to be at the 2026 World Cup and it's going to be at the 2030 World Cup as well. So, at the end of the day, I think that there might just be that unspoken rivalry between Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. I think they'll both keep pushing each other till they probably can't play anymore. We know that Ronaldo now is chasing 1,000 goals. Obviously, he'll be more motivated considering the fact that Messi has the record number of assists in football history, and Messi also has more trophies, 12 more trophies in comparison to Ronaldo. So obviously, we're going to see more of those two monsters going forward. So now, so the last team, and literally, they might finish among the top six. They might finish in the worst position. So yeah, when I say last, I do mean last. Talking about Tottenham Hotspurs. Um, so yes, before I share my opinion, yeah, in what position do you think Spurs need to strengthen come January?
Well, firstly, as a let's say as my favorite club's rival, I will not want to say the position that they will need to improve so they can. I will not want to say the positions where they need to improve because of the rivalry and all that. But I will say they are really missing some, I don't know how to call it, creativity in the team, because the
Mm,
person with the that is really making things happen for them is Kudus, who has 5 assists in the Premier League currently for Tottenham. So they are really missing players who can also do that in the presence of Madison and also
mm,
Kulusevski, who can, let's see, just string passes in the midfield and also in attack. So I don't know where to call that position attack or midfield, because both players, because Kulusevski plays as a winger, but Madison plays as a midfielder. So I don't know where to position that creative aspect of the team. I'll say I'm not really sure where to put it.
I
Creative
mean,
as
you could
forward,
still
sure.
say
Let's
the
say
number
the
10
forward
position.
position.
Yeah, sorry to cut you short, but then you could still say the number 10 position because in Madison's absence last season, Kulusevski was playing there. And then obviously when Madison's available, he does play as a 10. We know Madison is out with an ACL injury. Kulusevski, there's no timestamp to his potential return. Lucas Bergval, obviously we know he's young, he's got the potential, but he's not it. So I think you're on track right there. If you do say that, they need to strengthen in that position.
Yes, creative midfield. And also weighing the options again because I just try to assess the whole team before I make my final decision. I'll say defense is also probably not as good as it should be because Thomas Frank normally likes to play with a back three. But in the previous game, when they played this last weekend, he played with the back five. I think Romero was injured or suspended. I'm not really sure. So I'll say the center midfield or number 10 position really because they also don't have a lot of goals in their team. Richarlison, who isn't a prolific goal scorer, is the highest goal scorer in that team with 5 goals in the league this season. There are some others with 2, I think, or us actually Van de Ven has 3, but most likely from corners and all that. So some others have 2. Kudos, I think Brennan Johnson, so really, the number 10 position will take care of the lack of goals in that team. Because Spurs, with all their, let's say, downfalls, are normally known for being an exciting team. So I think adding more goals, rather, number 10 position to improve the number of goals in that team would help them improve to an extent. So,
Mm.
yeah, excitement over after excitement over being solid. So number 10 position is my pick to improve for Tottenham.
Mm. I do agree with you honestly. I think because of my earlier, points, which is the fact that Madison is most likely not going to play football this season, and there is no timestamp regarding Kulusevski's return from his knee injury, and I just think Lucas Bergvall is not good enough. Javi Simons as well. I think he has found it difficult to to hit the ground running. That's why he has even been played more as a winger than as an attacking midfielder, which is his preference. And since you mentioned the number 10 position, I think I'll just go straight ahead and mention a striker. Um, Dominic Solanke has not been in good form. Same thing with Richarlison. But honestly, you do make a good point when you say that maybe if more chances are being created, maybe they will score more goals. So I'm thinking about that option again. I'm also thinking about the fact that Thomas Frank is probably in a tough position in terms of choosing what way the team should play in order to be good enough to be competitive against other good teams, this season. I think throughout preseason, he always played with it was a 4-2-3-1. That has been the spine of Spurs for a long while. So obviously he will not want to change that. When they have played with three at the back, they really haven't been the best either. But then again, they've got forwards who can play as strikers. Talking about people like Kudus, Brennan Johnson, they can play as strikers. But then they've got young players in Matty Stell and Wilson Odobe who would suffer if they decide to play a three at the back. I mean, they could decide to play with two forwards, or they could decide to play with three. It all depends on the quality of the midfield as well. So I think I'll leave that headache to Thomas Frank. I don't want to take that up for him. But for me, I do think that they need a clinical striker. I think Spurs lack a clinical striker since you know Hurricane left. They've suffered in that position. They got Kolomwani in on loan from PSG, but hey, Kolomwani is not going to be a savior to them, but he's been decent thus far. So we'll see. We'll see what happens regarding Spurs eventually. For a producer's pick, he says a backup centre back for them is needed because there's a big drop off in quality after Mickey Van der Ven and Curtis Romero. And he's right because due respect to the likes of Ben Davies, who's obviously looking to retire soon, and Kevin Danso, yes, in comparison to the likes of Van de Ven and Romero, yeah, there is a drop off in quality, and it will be good for them if they've got other good players who can step up. I think Danso has the ability to step up. Obviously, he needs to play more games, and then there is this um, goal scoring defender of Spurs who's currently on loan at Hamburg. I think Vucevic. He had the squad number 80 while he was with them on preseason. I think that's another really, really good player that Spurs could rely on in the future. But obviously, he's out on loan for a reason. He's getting more game time to continue to improve. And you might just see him back in a Spurs jersey sooner than later. But yeah, um, I do agree with, our producer and Iyanu as well. But also in the striking position is one where I think Spurs need to strengthen. Iyanu, final word before we go?
Yes, so the striking, I think we're kind of on the same page, seeing that Spurs need to add more goals to their team. So since Harry Kane left, I think the mantle of goal scorer was passed on to Son, who also left last season or end of after they won the Europa League or this current season, left before this current season. So yes, adding
Mm,
more in attack does make sense. So I guess the players that they currently have, so this is the only signing who is really making an impact for this sports team. Xabi Simons still gelling in between the team, finding his form or adapting to the league.
mm,
Richarlison always that, what do I call him? He's usually more of a super sub usually, but with Kolomwani not really still adapting to the league, to the team, and Solanke being out for the time being, he's going to have to try his best to step up. And also Brennan Johnson, who was actually their top scorer in the league last season. He had 11, but struggling with injuries, so Spurs. And also, Thomas Frank, who has a knack for really identifying attacking talent, because in Brentford, he got Ivan Tony, Buemo, and Bisa. So if anyone could really find exciting players to add to this Spurs team, it would be him. So hopefully the recruitment team can work together to try to find more exciting talent to add to their attack.
mhm.
So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, for sure. January isn't far away, the winter transfer window. And I think for any team's success in the season, the winter transfer window could basically make or mar their season. But hey, all the best to the top six in the EPL. We just gave our opinions on positions in which we feel they should strengthen. So a big thank you to everyone for listening to this episode. Like the video if you enjoy this. Let us know your opinions in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified on our next episode where we'll be discussing the top five right backs in the Premier League. Have a great week, everyone. Stay safe.